Hey guys, I'm going to be looking at my phone so I know I'm not running over time. I guess I wanted to share a bit about my story before we managed to piss off billion-dollar publishers. So I started out Zookal about 2 years ago. We built it to a $5 million company in 9 months. We raised $1.8 million in venture capital from Australia and Silicon Valley. But it wasn't as easy as I make it out to be. It was actually a lot of turmoil and trouble all the way through. And the way we sort of got through it is we had a mantra which was difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week. And the way that we built that up, I suppose, is from a really early stage. When I first got started, I was at university and I had no idea about this whole entrepreneurial thing. And I got dragged along to a talk and it was just like this. And I met some dude in the corner who was really young looking and he had a suit and was standing by himself, and started talking to him, and we got along really well, and he gave me his card and it said managing director, and I thought, gee, what a wank, everyone has this on their cards nowadays. And I went back into the hall and I sat down, I saved him a seat, and he just kept walking, and I thought, what's going on? And he got to the front of the stage and he was actually this CEO of a $100 million company, and he had built it in 5 years, and he was driving off in his Ferrari, and I kind of stopped him. I said, dude, we got to talk, like, what the hell, And he gave me a blueprint of exactly what he did to build his company up and how he got started, and that sort of got me thinking. I was like, well, this guy's just like me, and he's not any smarter than me, and he's certainly not any better looking than me, and I thought, I can do what he can do. That sounds pretty easy. I'll just give it a go, and I started doing that, and all of a sudden my whole world started changing. So I went back to uni, and I had this really different mindset on things, like, why do we have to do things how they are? Can't we just disrupt everything? And we were given that day. I went to a class and we were given an assignment on a case study which was like 10 years old, and they're like, go out and what do you think about this, and what do you think happened in this case about this CEO? And I just managed to track down the CEO from that company from like 10 years ago, and I found him, and he was like flying to Africa for some charity or something, and I said, would you mind Skyping into my class and actually talking to the students? And everyone else got up and they said, well, we think this happened and this happened and that happened. And when I got up, I was like, well, we don't really know what happened. Why don't we just ask the CEO? And he came in via Skype, and then everyone was able to actually hear what happened. And I got a HD, but for the least amount of work. But that got me thinking about education as a whole. The system just seemed broken to me, and I really wanted to sort of disrupt that industry and do something for the positive to make students' lives easier. And with that, we started out Zookal, and originally I got in touch with the senior director for worldwide marketing for Apple out in San Francisco, because I thought everyone's going to be going to Apple, because originally my idea was to put textbooks onto this new tablet device that was coming out, and thought that's a cool idea, but everyone's going to be going to Apple Australia. So I rang the senior director for worldwide marketing in Apple, and I just rang the Apple switchboard and asked for him by name, and I said, I'm the CEO of this company from Sydney, Australia, and they're like, oh, Sydney, patch him right through to his mobile. And I pitched the idea to him, and I was on the phone with him for 5 minutes, and he was like, how'd you get my number? And then after that, he's like, oh, okay, look, I'll put you in touch with the CEO of Apple Australia. Why don't you go in and see them? And I went in and I pitched my idea to Apple, and they thought, great, we'll endorse it. And they gave me an iPad, and I thought, wow, this is going to be awesome. And then I went and started speaking to these publishers about getting textbooks onto iPads, and they're just like, no. They said, we've spent billions of dollars in overhead in print books. Why the hell would we want to cut our margins and go into digital? I'm like, it just makes sense, and it's better for the students, and all these benefits. And they're like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I came up with the idea of renting the textbooks to students in the print format, so that would eat into publisher revenue so much so that they would be forced to go down the digital path. And I found there's a company in the US doing something similar, and they'd raised $250 million in venture capital, and they're now a $1 billion company in 5,000 campuses and 5 million students. And I just emailed the co-founder of that, and I said, hey, I'm in Silicon Valley, you want to catch up for a coffee? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I booked a flight, and I went there. And then I met him, and he liked what we were doing so much that he actually came on board as an advisor and shareholder in Zookal. And once we had that, then I started pitching. And even with raising capital, I was told by everyone that you can't raise money from Silicon Valley. You're an Australian-based company. You're the oldest guy in the company. You're 27. You got like this unexperienced, unproven management team, and basically everything was working against us. We were running out of cash, and whilst we were there, I bet the last bit of our cash on a flight, because we put up on a Q&A board, hey, we're in the Valley, how do we meet people? And some lawyer said, hey, you should do these things and go to these meetups. And I sent her an email and said, hey, can we meet for a coffee? And she's like, cool. And she put us in touch with this investor that we flew down to LA. And after an 8-hour meeting, he was just like, look, we'll give you $1.2 million and you guys go from there, and that's our journey. So no worries, thanks.